Hello YouTube friends. Right now we're at half Bronto, full Raptor. I had a little relief from my job and only had to work 3 hours today instead of my typical 6.5. So I'm here doing another video about music. Now I've already mentioned all my favorite heavy metal acts, and so I've also covered my DVD collection. So I'm going to try not to have too much crossover. I'm going to discuss bands that are not heavy metal bands that have influenced me and that I have memories about, and bands and genres that I like. So let's dive in. Starting backwards from Z, we begin with the masters of blues. I guess I would even say experimental psychedelic blues rock with electronica elements. That's the masters, ZZ Top. I think Billy Gibbons is a phenom, and I'm a big fan. I've always been a fan. I had some cassette tapes of Recycler and maybe some of the others when I was in my formative stages driving my car around, and I actually pinned on the back of my vehicle for a little while in Sharpie, "I'd rather be listening to ZZ Top." So the things people do when they're young, who knows why. But I'm a huge fan of ZZ Top. And now let's move backwards. I'm going to just hit the highlights here. I'm going to try to stray from anything that I'm not too familiar with, that I might have some vague feeling, a positive feeling about, just so I can stick with the, once again, the hard hitters. Okay, Wild Marmalade is an awesome Australian band, I believe, and it's a didgeridoo player with some very skilled percussionists backing him or her. So Wild Marmalade is an exciting, legitimately exciting kind of a world music ensemble that I've gotten some enjoyment from. Alright, and now U2. I'm a huge fan of U2. I might have already mentioned them, but I especially like their early material and How to Dismantle an Atomic Bomb. I think The Edge, I've read some interviews with them, and I really love their full-on experimental attitude, and they've impressed me on many occasions. All right. Okay. Tokyo Ska Paradise Orchestra. I saw them, part of one of their concerts. I sort of walked by and gazed at them for a while at a festival one time. I love ska. I'm not really versed in some of the amazing ska bands that I should know about, but I am a huge ska fan when it's done well, and I'll mention probably my all-time favorite ska band when we get to the Bees. But Tokyo Ska, they do it right. I mean, it's legit in every single way. Okay, let's see here. I know I mentioned the Mars Volta, but I'm a big fan of those guys. They've disbanded, but all their records have challenging and intricate guitar passages, and the arrangements are awesome. It's just an avalanche of sound, and they have hit the nail squarely on the head with some of those tracks, and I will forever think of them as one of the most ambitious, most hard-hitting psychedelic ensembles of the 2000s. Alright, we're going to be really skipping ahead quickly through this. So Thanatopsis is a Buckethead project, and I'm just going to wrap Buckethead and his side projects all into one right now and get that out of the way. So he has impressed me on a number of occasions. I've seen him a bunch of times, maybe 3 or 4 times. I was front row when he played a Bonnaroo appearance in 2004, and I was right in front of his giant, well, it was a half stack, but it was probably like a, who knows how many thousands of wattage were pumping through that speaker system and basically directly into my face. So he took me on a hell ride, but it was worth it, you know, for rock and roll. So and then I saw him a bunch of times. I saw him solo a few times, I guess, and maybe 3 or 4 times total. But I'm a big fan. I love his everything about Buckethead, and I love it. All right. Okay. Well, it's hard to know what to really skip because some of these bands I'm fond of, but I want to really just slam you with the favorites. I think Sleeping People is worth mentioning. They're an unusual band. They play in a lot of off rhythms and they're completely instrumental, I think, mostly. They have 2 records, I think, and I've only heard one of them a lot. But they were extremely experimental in the way that they would shuffle everything together, like all these rhythms combating one another and really creating magic out of the turmoil. So Sleeping People influenced me, and that style of music, it's impressive in its scope. All right, one impressive record, Ry Cooder. I don't know all of his stuff, but I wish I did because the one he did with Manuel Galban was incredible, and every single moment of that CD is perfectly executed, and it's amazing. I wish I knew the name of the record, but Ry Cooder, I wish... Okay, what I'm going to do is learn all about him because he's an impressive guy. I read an interview with him recently, and if that record is any indication, I know he's worked with even some incredible other acts that I like a lot, like the Chieftains, so I mean, it's a shame I don't know more about him. RX Bandits I was turned on to, and all of their stuff is worth listening to. They began as kind of a political ska dub band, and then they moved into some very chaotic and impressive rock stylings, keeping the horns, the brass instrumentation as a element of the mix, but dropping out those dub and ska elements. So they became, especially on their album, I believe it's called And the Battle Begun, it's been impressive both to me and my peers, and RX Bandits is an exciting band, and everything they have done is worth a listen to. And there were a few side projects that came out of that group as well. I like Roisin Murphy. I believe she's a British songstress. She's a pop act, and she's got some very unusual stylings. Her music is like electronic music, but she's got a good kind of a sultry vocal delivery. But it's also the subject matter is weird in a way. And I've only got the 1 record, but I bought it. Even when it was long out of fashion to buy CDs, I bought it and had it delivered. Roisin Murphy. She's very interesting. Okay. I like all the Tool and Perfect Circle and Pussifer stuff. And I especially am interested in this Pussifer material because I love electronic music, and as I've grown to love it more, it's nice to see some of my favorite recording artists that I kind of grew up listening to also embrace electronic stylings. And I've been really impressed with the Pussifer stuff. I need to get a hold of maybe the more recent releases, but it's exciting. I didn't see Pussifer, but I did see the other 2 Keenan projects in concert a number of times. Prince is that dude for me. I've got everything he's ever released, and it's staggering, really. I mean, I'm not familiar with the material, but I'll be a lifelong Prince fan because, like, I saw an interview once, or I've got an interview, actually, an instructional DVD by a really fantastic, popular, world-class bass player named Victor Wooten, and he even talks about how Prince was a great influence because Prince played it all. Like, when he made those early records, he was doing everything. Like, I guess he outsourced some of the tracks, or he gave some of his band or his musicians the option, I guess, to play some stuff too, but he was the one out there pounding away, recording hundreds and hundreds of tracks. I think his back catalog is filled with hundreds of songs too that he's not even released, but he would do all the guitar and bass, and he's very impressive, and he's an exciting artist, and I'll forever be a Prince fan. His concert DVDs, he has 2 of them, and they are definitely worth a watch. Okay. Well, Pink Floyd, I should mention. As you can imagine, they were very, very inspirational to me. Everything. Not Dark Side so much. But Animals, The Wall, portions of The Division Bell, and Wish You Were Here, of course. And I had on LP, on vinyl, when I was very young, my favorite band. In 4th grade, I had to do a little bit of a quiz about what my favorite food was, and it was like pizza and breadsticks, and what my favorite band was, and it was Pink Floyd, because I'd been listening to the vinyl of that I'd kind of gotten from an uncle or something, of Dark Side and also of Metal, I think. And so I was really, my brain was being shaken up by Pink Floyd even as early as middle school. Okay, let's see here. Let's move on. Some stuff I've not mentioned before. I think Of Montreal is a very exciting band. I know they're very prolific, but I'm only familiar with a little bit of their stuff. But I like it because it's challenging in a way, and it's exciting, and it's inspiring that single guy, the main frontman, kind of records everything. So I've heard he just does it all, and then he just gets a backing band to help him do the tours. So that type of thing is inspirational to me, and some of that far out Of Montreal material has really impressed me. I guess I've always been a NoFX fan. From the early days when all my friends were punk rockers and I was into punk rock, and for a while I was in a punk rock band that was led by an intense female vocalist. And I like of the really super popular punk rock bands. I like NoFX and Rancid, as I should, And they even did a split where they played each other's songs. That was interesting. Okay, of the Mike Patton projects, Mr. Bungle's my favorite, and they only released, I guess, a couple of records, but it's recommended listening. It's essential to understand how far you can take it if in that direction. So, Mr. Bungle. Okay, that first Management album was very awesome, and I think that I should learn more about that group, because it seems to be it seems that I'm defaulting to the word challenging, but there's something about it that pushes the boundaries a little bit, because I grew up listening to traditional sorts of rock and heavy metal, and it was just an amplified or an overdriven amplifier and drums and bass and vocals. Okay, so when things start creeping in, and when I started getting into trance music and electronica music and other types of computer musics, I started to really love the crossover sorts of groups who would give me the sensation of both a rock band and an electronic group, and they're saying strange things, and I really like that sort of a combination. Oh, alright, and some straight up funk bands. I like the Meters. They're a classic band, but they just sort of just drop the funk. Oh, I'm a huge MIA fan. I've heard everything but her newest album, which isn't really new anymore, but I remember doing household chores and having MIA on repeat. Some of this music ages well in my psyche, and some of it doesn't age quite as well. And it's hard to go back and listen to a lot of the groups that I was inspired by, at least for a period of time. So it's exciting to me what she did, and she was, backed by a kind of a great list of producers, and was really, I think that all of her fame was well deserved, because, it's MIA, she was kind of on top of the world for a while, and it wasn't just a one-hit single wonder. Both of the albums I have, there were awesome tracks, throughout the entire length of the records. Oh, great. Some pop groups. I'm not afraid to listen to pop music, and I did like the LMFAO record. Anything that's sort of almost bubbly, almost effervescent in its infectiousness, just unapologetically happening. We'll get to, I guess, the sterling example of that in a little while, but I like it. It's exciting to me. It's really, really exciting to me. And it's being so infectious and awesome. All right, Little Dragon. Oh yes, you've got to listen to Little Dragon. Probably one of my favorite bands of the last, I don't know, getting close to, probably coming up on 10 years now. Um, a little hit or miss and a little spotty. They've released some albums that are filled with incredible music, but also just some duds. But I saw them in concert once in New York, and it was incredible to see them. I wanted for a lot of tracks, like I really wanted to hear like 3 or 4 songs that they didn't play, but they were backing their new album, or at least performing songs off the whatever they just released. But Little Dragon, I first found them by looking up music videos on YouTube, and they had like they have like a shadow puppet music video for one of their songs, and well, the barbs sank in, I often will say, and it happened, and I really got to be a huge fan of Little Dragon. Oh, and the world caught on too. I mean, they were reaching the front covers of some big national magazines, and they did a sold out tour. I saw them, they sold out the New York venue where I saw them. Okay, I'm a big Lady Gaga fan. I guess that goes without saying. I remember watching, she was live broadcasting an HBO concert a couple years ago. I saw that. But I was a fan before then. And yeah, that's that. I'm a Gaga fan, definitely. And LaRue really caught my attention. She, I think, has still only released the one album, but I had it on repeat forever. I was really taken in by LaRue. Just that straight ahead sort of electronica sound, really. It was kind of uniform over the entire album, so the album played like one extended track, and some of that material was awesome to me. And I started to really learn to love, or I developed a love for female vocals over electronic dance music. And so now, I mean, if I really like the vocalist and I think that the music stands up, like, I mean, I'm pretty much an instant fan. And LaRue really caught me. Okay. Justice is an amazing electronic outfit from France. They have 2 records now, and the first one was so out there, it's just, it was just incredible. They did a phenomenal job playing with some very unusual beats, and layering it with some unusual vocals, and just not being afraid to take risks. And Justice reached a large fan base with their album, or with their song DANCE, and the whole album. I mean, some parts of the album I think were a lot better than that single, and they were a great favorite of mine for a while. Yeah, I mean, I like this female pop stuff. I like Katy Perry and Kesha, stuff like that. I just can't help it. I mean, I probably would never have ever I mean, I wouldn't have liked them earlier in my life. I probably would have taken one listen and hated it, but now I like it. Hendrix, of course. I love Hendrix. I'll always love Hendrix. He will stand out to me as the greatest rock guitar god of all time. I really wish that his career could have kept going, and it's just he was so slippery and so on, and just a great inspiration. What else really needs to be said about Hendrix? But it's important to get into his deeper cuts. Some of the things that his estate released after he died, because that's the direction he was going, and it's all good. I want to explore more Hot Chip. They are a difficult band to digest a little bit, but if you there's one album I have, and that's the only one I've got, but I've enjoyed it thoroughly, because you've got to be patient with it, and they are doing some unusual stuff, and they're worth a listen and worth it'd be worthwhile for me to learn more about hot chip. James Brown. Ooh. Yeah, I love that funk. I know I've talked about James Brown, but ooh, amazing. I saw Galactic once, and for a long while I listened to some of their stuff. I like how they, as far as the jam bands who go, who kind of have a little bit of electronic influence maybe, they're one of my favorites. I guess they were more stripped down. Maybe they didn't really have an electronica element. But I understand that they have released albums that are vastly different from one another, and that they've just kind of just kept the ball rolling with, you know, like the album I've heard the most has one vocalist who's featured on all of the tracks, and I think I researched it once, and he was not on any of the other albums, but they released, I guess, a bunch of albums now. So it's very cool to me that they would just get into that groove, lock into it, and really make the listener enjoy the entire unfolding of the song, even though they were just kind of just hammering that groove away. And that's an important skill, and it's difficult to do. Okay, all right. We're going to have to just move on quickly here. Just a couple more to mention. Dragonette, I'm a huge fan of. Dragonette is a female-led pop group. They deserve to be world famous, but all of their songs are kind of in a different style, and the bassist slash producer of the record is like of all of their records is kind of famous in his own right, and then it's his wife who sings, and Dragonette is awesome. For a while I liked the band Dredge, an experimental rock band. It's important for me to mention Depeche Mode, especially their live material, their live DVD that I have by them is one of my favorite DVDs of all time. Devendra Banhart is a folk singer who's worth a listen. He does a warbly, unusual vocalizations, and he has very poetic lyrics that you can really unfold into a lot of exciting stuff. Chromeo, that's who I was hinting at. I'm a huge Chromeo fan. All of their albums are almost flawless from beginning to end. I've got great memories of listening to Chromeo on my headphones when I was living in Pittsburgh, and I would just take my bicycle around the city listening to Chromeo, and I'll always remember Chromeo as the band I learned about and listened to in Pittsburgh, but I've always been a fan. I wish I could have seen them. All right. Just breeze through some of these other bands. I guess that's going to be about it. There were a couple more I wanted to mention, but I guess I skipped over them. So yeah, there's just some information about some bands that I really like. Amon Tobin, definitely Amon Tobin. And Babylon Circus was that ska band I like. They're a French ska band, and some of their lyrics I think are very political. Incredible ska band, and probably my favorite ska band of all time. And Basement Jaxx, maybe that'll round it out. Also Beck. Definitely Beck. I'm a huge Beck fan. Everything he does is pretty much made of solid gold. From his acoustic weird stuff to his strict electronic music. And that's it. I love all kinds of music, including Celtic music, classical, rap, and hip-hop. And also like belly dance music and Asian music. It's all wonderful. But those were some of the specifics, so thanks for taking this ride with me.